Welcome to Rob and Tony's Cinematic Adventure. I'm Rob Wilson.
And I am Tony the Quano.
So, Tony, tell me, what do you get if you take romance, intrigue, murder, bank fraud, crazy train man, and add just a dash of necrophilia? Take all those things, mix them in to a goulash. What do you get?
I love that word goulash.
Yes, especially when it's a goulash.
And it's appropriate because it's ghoul.
Exactly.
Goulash.
Exactly. So what do you get when you mix all that together?
We get the Jerry Zucker classic, Ghost.
Yes, that's exactly what you get.
It's funny because you don't think, we did Jerry Zucker recently.
Mm-hmm, we did.
Top Secret.
Yep, this is a completely different movie than Top Secret.
Completely different movie than Top Secret. But is it?
Well,
think of the goulash you just created.
That is true.
What goulash created Top Secret? I'm just saying.
You make an excellent point, sir.
But yes, the 1990 classic Ghost with one Patrick Swayze and one Demi Moore, one Whoopi. He didn't bring any soul into that goulash. There was some soul in this goulash as well.
Yes. Soul and souls.
Plenty of soul. There we go again. Clay. You get clay pot. I mean, there's pottery in this movie.
There's pottery. This movie redefined pottery for everybody.
Yes, it did.
Mm-hmm.
Plenty of men thinking how pottery could lead to, getting unlucky.
Crazy monkey sex?
All they need is on-chain melody.
Yep. Which, I mean, we'll get to that. We'll get to that pottery scene, but was all that supposed to happen in the length of that song?
No, well, that's a good question. Anyway.
And the duration of that song. But yeah, we will get to that
soon. But I'm glad we did this one. We've discussed it before. We're wanting to do it. And here we are. And I think it's appropriate because it is a summer blockbuster. It's the highest grossing movie of 1990.
Yeah. And that's saying something. Because 90 had some good movies.
Yes. And it's not a type of movie you see as maybe a blockbuster anymore, right? Mm-hmm. Everything is so franchised. Yep. And, again, I don't think anyone would have thought Jerry Zucker would direct a Oscar-nominated movie that was the highest grossing movie of the year.
Yeah. But, he did. He did. And at this point, Demi Moore wasn't a huge household name at the time.
She really wasn't. She did a bunch of the Brat Pack stuff.
Yeah. But this movie catapulted her.
And she was on General Hospital.
Yeah. I mean, this movie made her the highest paid actress in the world for a time.
Right. And, and it's funny because, she is the lead actress in this movie. Mm-hmm. But it's really the Patrick Swayze show.
Yeah. I mean, he was a much bigger name than she was at that time.
Yeah. He already had Dirty Dancing and Roadhouse. He's in almost every scene of this movie.
Yeah. I mean, he is the titular ghost. Spoiler alert.
He is the title character. Yes. Like you said, spoiler alert. He dies.
Pretty early
he dies
on.
Again.
So it's really not spoiling a whole lot.
But, Whoopi Goldberg was a much bigger name at the time than Demi Moore was.
Yeah.
Whoopi got an Oscar. Mm-hmm. And it's probably a role only Whoopi could play.
Yeah. Yeah, I think so.
Very well suited for it. And so I see the appeal of it. But, and it's got, like you said, a movie that redefined pottery and on-chain melody, got reinvigorated also because of that scene. Yeah. Which we'll get to.
Yep.
Yeah. There's so many things in this. And you can understand how it kind of became a runaway hit that summer.
Yeah. And I'll tell you, it was better than I remembered it being.
Yes.
Yeah, I don't know that I've ever just sat down and watched this movie from beginning to end. I've seen the whole thing, but in pieces.
Okay.
And never necessarily in the correct order. I knew the general order of events, but I don't know that I ever actually sat down and watched it from beginning to end.
Yeah, okay, so this is my first time watching it as well that I can remember, but I doubt I watched this when I was younger.
Oh, I did.
Well, you had sisters.
So, yeah. So, the first time I ever saw any of this movie, my siblings and I were at the movie theater with my mom Us kids were all seeing Prancer, and my mom was seeing Ghost. And this is back in the days before assigned seating at the movie theaters.
Yes, right.
And when it was really easy to just walk from one theater into another.
Very easy, yes.
And so when we were done in Prancer, Ghost was still playing, so we all joined my mom for the rest of Ghost, for like the last 20, 30 minutes of Ghost.
Oh, what a 30 minutes you saw, too.
I know, right? So my first experience with this movie was that final sequence when Tony Goldwyn is chasing Demi Moore and Whoopi Goldberg.
We'll get to the rest of that sequence later. We're not spoiling it yet.
No, we're not spoiling it yet. But yeah, that whole sequence was my first experience with Ghost.
I'm glad you brought up Tony Goldwyn, because we have not mentioned Tony Goldwyn yet. One of the members of a very famous movie family. Mm-hmm. And he's in it. Mm-hmm. Okay, so before I get to my experience with it, every time I was watching his character in this, Tony Goldwyn's, I couldn't help but think of a less muscular Ivan Drago.
Yes. Yes. I can totally see that.
So anyway, yeah, I've seen parts of it. I mean, for a long time, and even now, I guess, there's portions of the movie that are so iconic. But it's also a movie that's not forgotten, but kind of overlooked at this point. And I think, over the last decade or so, some of Swayze's career has been re-examined, particularly like Roadhouse, and even Point Break, I guess.
Well, I mean, both of those also recently got remakes.
Yes.
And remakes
but,
tend to have
Ghost
people
is still kind of
the original.
There. And I kind of wonder, with Demi Moore having kind of a resurgence last year, if people can kind of start looking back at Ghost again.
It's possible.
Because this movie is wild.
It is. It is. Much more wild than I remembered it being.
And the thing I remember from it around the time it was out was when it first came out on VHS. And I think people need to, if you're too young, it used to be a big deal when movies would come out on VHS.
Oh, yeah.
And it would be like a year after the movie came out in theaters. Mm-hmm. And there was a Kmart commercial. Kmart was promoting the VHS release of Ghost. And there were two ladies going around talking about how they needed to buy a copy of Ghost. And how it was not on just one tape. It was on two tapes.
That's how you knew it
because it was so long. The movie's only just over 2 hours.
Yeah, 2 hours and 6 minutes. And it required 2 tapes.
Yes. But then, at some point, the poster just gets engraved.
Yeah.
to your mind.
Yep.
And so you're expecting, and it's a movie that was actually ranked by AFI on the romance list, the passions list, at like number 19 or something, as one of 100 most romantic movies ever made. And I get that, but I guess romance kind of drives the Swayze character for so much of the movie.
But really, it's not so much a romance as everybody claims it is. I mean, sure, yeah, there's definitely a love story there, definitely, but.
It's almost more of like a mystery thriller.
Yeah.
You got Puerto Rican hitmen, right? Mm-hmm. You got bank, like you said earlier, bank fraud.
We'll get into the Puerto Rican hitman.
So I think one of the other kind of, I'm not going to say fascinating tidbits, but nice little piece of kind of trivia tidbits. We were saying earlier, 1990 had a lot of very good movies. So that summer saw the release of Die Hard 2. Mm-hmm. And when the weekend that Ghost was released, Die Hard 2 actually beat it at the box office, remain at like number 1. I think it was Die Hard 2's second weekend of release, and it edged out Ghost for the crown. Now, obviously, as Ghost would eventually gross more, but that weekend, Die Hard 2, number 1, Ghost number 2, and Willis and Demi Moore were a couple still at the time. They're married. Mm-hmm. And it was the first instance, it might still only be the only instance, where a husband and wife were 1-2 at the box office.
Huh, interesting. And Bruce Willis is one of the people that was considered for the Sam Wheat role, too, but he turned it down.
Well, he turned it down because he didn't understand the script, apparently.
Yeah.
And he called himself a knucklehead for not taking the script, for taking the role.
Yeah.
I can kind of see him in the role,
Yeah.
I think Swayze brings the Swayze factor to it that kind of helps sell it a little bit.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
I mean, then again, like Bruce was on Moonlighting, so I mean, he could do it. He could do it as well. But it would have been interesting blending of that with his action-oriented phase. I don't know.
His real-life significant other at the time.
That's right. but he didn't take it. And guess what? That's okay. Was anyone else considered for that role?
Oh, several people were considered for that role.
I remember looking at who was considered for Demi Moore's role, which included Michelle Pfeiffer, Meg Ryan, Molly Ringwald, Nicole Kidman, Julia Roberts. Oh, here we go. Harrison Ford,
yeah, that's right.
Michael J. Fox, Paul Hogan. Imagine Crocodile Dundee in this
Paul
movie.
Hogan turned it down and then went on to make Almost an Angel.
Okay.
Which I remember that movie. I watched that one at my aunt's house when we were visiting in Chicago. Well, she lived in Wisconsin at the time.
Never seen it. Don't know anything about it.
All I remember.
But now I know Paul Hogan's in it.
All I remember is Paul Hogan standing in an alley getting mugged, and the mugger had a gun and shot him, but the gun had blanks in it, and he didn't know that, so he thought he was an angel because he survived getting shot.
That's wild.
All I remember from that movie.
That's absolutely wild.
Yeah.
Oh my. This shades of a lot of different things in some of these movies, by the way.
Here we go. Yes. So here, many other actors were approached but turned down the role, including Michael J. Fox, Jeff Bridges, Kevin Bacon, Alec Baldwin, Nicolas Cage, Kevin Costner, Tom Cruise, Johnny Depp, David Duchovny, Harrison Ford, Mel Gibson.
David Duchovny would have been definitely an unknown at that point.
Oh, yeah. Tom Hanks, Paul Hogan, Kevin Kline, Dennis Quaid, Mickey Rourke, John Travolta, and Bruce Willis.
That would have been a fun one.
Mickey Rourke or John Travolta?
Mickey Rourke. Well, and even apparently Whoopi was not the first considered for her role. They considered Tina Turner, Patti LaBelle, Oprah Winfrey, but I guess at this point Swayze had been cast, and he was the one that convinced them to cast Whoopi.
Yeah, and Whoopi was perfect for this role.
And even Jerry Zucker was not the first thought to direct the movie. So the screenwriter, Bruce Rubin, he'd written the script, and then he'd learned that they had chosen, well, I guess I should say it wasn't he wasn't the screenwriter's choice, right? So he learned that Zucker had been attached to it, and he thought, it's like, well, he knew Naked Gun, he knew Airplane, and Top Secret. He's like, no, that doesn't make any sense. Yeah. Right? He's going to change my script. So he thought of Milos Forman, director of One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest and Amadeus, most famously. And the other one he thought of was Stanley Kubrick.
That would have been interesting.
Hilarious. So I actually think Stanley Kubrick could have directed this movie.
Yeah, he could have.
It would have been wild.
It would have been a very different film.
Kubrick's take on it.
Yes. It would have been very different than what we got. But I would be interested in watching that.
Would have had Scatman Crothers as Whoopi's character.
No, Scatman would probably be the ghost that jumps into her body.
But eventually he warmed up to the idea. But yeah. So anyway, so it's basically took me almost 40 years to see this movie, or 35 years, I guess, or, halfway there between 30 and 40. Yeah. And I think it's a movie because I remember it kind of lingering in my mind as a child. And yeah, I just never got around to seeing it. And now I have, and I'm glad I have, because like I said, it's a wild movie. So, and it's very emblematic of its time, I think, as well. Yeah. He was also in this movie that I had no idea was in this movie, but as you were saying earlier, is in everything, is Stephen Root.
Yes, I was going to mention that too. Stephen Root had a cameo in this movie. He had a small scene as the police sergeant. And we've done some Stephen Root movies already on this podcast.
We've done multiple Stephen Root movies, yes.
He shows up a lot.
We did, I guess most recently, No Country for Old Men was probably the most recent one.
Yeah, I think so. I think so.
We have not done Office Space yet.
We have not. He's very memorable in that.
Yeah, no red staplers in this movie.
Nope.
That you know of.
Well, at this point, the red stapler didn't exist.
Well, yes, that's also a very good point.
So, I'm sure we'll get into more detail about that if we ever do Office Space, which I'm sure we will someday.
It's funny how many things Stephen Root said. He does so much voice work. Also.
Yeah.
That's part of it. I don't even remember that he was in Finding Dory, but I've only seen Finding Dory once. So
I never saw Finding Dory. Seen Finding Nemo. Obviously, we did an episode on last summer.
Yes, we did an episode on Finding Nemo. We might do another Pixar movie this summer.
We might.
Because we did one last summer.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we like to mix it up and do more than just one genre for our blockbusters.
Which is why I'm also glad we did this, because we have not done a lot of movies with a romance angle.
Yeah.
We've done some stuff with the supernatural angle also, I guess. But what's interesting was I was even thinking about it since we were talking about how this made Demi Moore the highest earning actress. We haven't done too many movies with like a female lead. And we did one just a couple weeks ago with Alien. Yeah. Even though, as we said in that, no one really would have thought of her as being the lead when you first saw it.
Yeah,
if you were heading into the movie.
Yeah, we've only done a handful of movies with a female lead. You're right.
Last week we had Saving Private Ryan, which is an almost entirely male cast.
Yep.
I think there's 2 actresses in that movie, and neither one of them I think says a line.
Let's see. We did Terminator. That's got a female lead.
We did. Yes.
We did Everything Everywhere All at Once.
That's another one.
We did
Silence of the Lambs.
Silence of the Lambs. Coda.
Coda's another one.
Princess Bride.
There we go.
Twister.
And Twisters.
And Twisters.
Dante's Peak.
Dante's Peak,
That's Sarah Connor again.
And Trans-Siberian. I guess we have done quite a few.
More than I thought. Honora.
Yes, Honora.
Casablanca.
The Shining, if you want to call... I mean, it's kind of hard to tell who the lead actually is in The Shining. I mean, obviously, Jack Nicholson
That's a good point, yes.
Is, probably the most of a lead in that movie, but...
All right. Yeah, a few more than I thought. So, it is our first Demi Moore movie.
Yep.
We've done Patrick Swayze before with Point Break. So, yeah, I'm glad we did it. I'm excited to talk about it.
Me too. So, should we get into it?
We should.
All right, let's get into it. So, as always, spoiler alert, we are going to be talking about this entire movie, beginning, middle, and end. So if you have not seen it, you don't want to be spoiled, pause the podcast, watch the movie, and come back and listen. If you have seen the movie or you just don't mind being spoiled, then keep on listening. But you have been warned, this movie is going to be spoiled. And we've already spoiled little bits of it already, but not anything major just yet.
Not yet.
I mean, we spoiled the fact that Patrick Swayze dies. His character.
The movie is called Ghost, so obviously someone has died.
Yeah. So anyway, we start out.
So I think the title sequence is just kind of interesting. It's just like it flashes just Ghost.
Yeah. Yeah.
With this very eerie kind of sound.
Mm-hmm.
And the rest of the movie's not really that eerie.
And the camera's like panning through like what appears to be like an old condemned, dilapidated place.
Yeah, I mean that was my impression was like an abandoned like attic of an attic of an abandoned house maybe because you see like light streaming through from like above. It doesn't really look like it's a basement to me, right? It looks like it's maybe an attic. Was my impression of it.
Then you have somebody knocking a hole through the wall with a sledgehammer.
And
you get Patrick Swayze and Demi Moore going into this like seemingly abandoned place, and I guess it's just another room from their apartment.
Right. Well, I was trying to make sense of that.
They didn't know
because
about?
Then you see them later in their apartment, and we'll get to that. And even at the end, as the apartment, the rest of the building plays a pivotal part of the climax. And then you see something that's very much reminiscent of kind of this opening sequence, right? And I'm just wondering, because like if you look later, the apartment they live in has working call buttons and everything, and it seems like it's is this apartment building like kind of new, and there's a bunch of abandoned lofts and floors in it, and they just happen to live in one of them. They just because as we learn, like they obviously it's they're busting through it and they're making plans or renovating it, and they've just bought the place.
Yeah.
Right? And they're not married yet. The boyfriend and the girlfriend are not even engaged. But they have these big plans for this apartment that they're buying in like what
it's in New York.
The financial district of Manhattan. And they got, his buddy there, played by Tony Goldwyn, kind of helping out with the entire thing.
Yeah. So Swayze plays Sam Wheat. Demi Moore is Molly Jensen. And Tony Goldwyn is Carla Brunner.
Well, how did they come up with the last name Wheat?
I don't know, but I do know how they came up with Brunner. But
okay.
So, which I don't know. I don't know how they came up with wheat for last name, because it's spelled like the grain,
like
wheat, WHEAT.
It's also kind of hard for me to whenever a movie this time period and I hear the name of Carl, like I'm either going one of two ways. I'm thinking about Carl from Die Hard or Carl Winslow.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And he's neither.
But Reginald Val Johnson was in both of those, and he was Carl Winslow. So he was Carl Winslow. He was not Carl in Die Hard. He was Al Powell in Die Hard.
He does appear in Die Hard 2, which is, which we mentioned earlier. But his role so small in that movie, though. Well, while you're looking for that, there's a particular scene where they're kind of looking around this dilapidated space, and Sam finds a penny, an 1898 Indian head penny. He's like, oh, that's good luck, right? Yep. And it's kind of, at the time, you don't think much of it, and it's not like it's the most important thing, but then there is a significant scene with a penny later in the movie.
Yes, there is. And
not that penny.
So the thing about Carl Bruner's name. So Bruce Joel Rubin, the writer of the film, had a grade school teacher named Carl Bruner that he did not like. So that's why he named Tony Goldwyn's character Carl Bruner.
There we go. In case you're not getting the hint, Carl might not be a good guy.
Yeah.
In fact, he might be going to hell.
In a handbasket.
So it cuts, and now it's Carl and Sam, and they're on the street, and they're coming, I guess, coming off the subway. And again, it's a financial district.
They're bankers. Yeah, so Sam is a banker. Molly is an artist.
Yes. And Sam's practicing Japanese. Yes. He's got an important conference call with some, I guess, Japanese
bigwigs.
I guess potential clients, or maybe they are clients, and they're just, whatever it is. But
it's an important meeting with
nervous
these Japanese
that his
guys.
Japanese is not going to be good enough.
Yeah.
Right. And they're crossing the street, and Sam sees a Testarossa, and he's like, "Wow, man, I wish I could have one of those."
Mm-hmm.
Right? Because all he has right now is a Mustang.
Mm-hmm.
Because he's youngish, right? So, his age, having a Mustang at that point, probably, I bet he probably went high end on his Mustang, but still, right?
Yeah.
The Testarossa does not come back and play in the movie.
No, it doesn't.
He never gets his Testarossa.
Never gets it. Never gets it. Well, I don't know. He might get it after the credits.
Oh,
he's in heaven.
Because you take the love with you, is what he says.
Yes.
At the end.
Yes. And he loved that Testarossa.
He loved that enough.
Yes.
It might be with him.
It might be.
So they get to their building, and like I said, it's in Manhattan, so they're in an elevator, they're the high rise, and how Carl is trying to.
It's a crowded elevator, right? They're right in the middle.
It's probably like 8:00 in the morning.
Yeah, they're right in the middle of this elevator, and there are people all around them crammed into this elevator.
Carl just kind of fakes a cough. And they just run with it.
Yeah, and then Sam's like, "Hey, so how'd it go with the doctor?" It's like, "Oh yeah, he said I was wildly contagious, and but there's nothing really to worry about. But yeah, that like I probably shouldn't be around people because they might catch it." He's like, "And how's the rash? Oh, the rash? Yeah, that's He said that's wildly contagious too. He's like, it's mostly just around the genitals, right? It's like, yep. It's down there. It burns pretty bad. Meanwhile, everybody in this elevator is listening to their conversation.
And again, my guess too is like, again, it's a high rise in Manhattan. It's probably the express elevator, so they can't hit another button to get off.
Yep. Everybody's just trying to put as much distance between themselves and him as possible.
And that's when Dennis Hopper comes in.
No, he doesn't.
Oh, that's an episode for a few months from now.
Yes.
We do Speed.
Yes.
Because that was in L.A.
Pop quiz, asshole.
Anyway, I like it when he gets off the elevator. He just like pushes his hand down one of the dudes.
Yep. Yeah. Yeah, he kind of taps the guy on the back and then rubs his hand across his shoulder.
Right, so. And so they get there, and then before what Sam's supposed to get on a call with the Japanese guys, but he gets another call from one of the I guess one of the bosses about wiring $400,000 to a particular account.
Yeah.
And he doesn't have time to do it. So he tells Carl to do it for him. Right? So then, it ends that scene, and you kind of cut back to now you get the exterior of the apartment at least the apartment building that they live in. And
was it 400,000 or 4 million?
400,000.
Okay, because later it's 4 million.
Maybe it is 4 million. Okay.
Yeah.
So, and he got some movers there, and they're lifting up this giant wooden angel. Mm-hmm. Hoisting it up. They got their pulleys, right, and they're trying to get it through the window of the apartment, right? I mean, it's massive.
Yeah,
it's wooden. It's got to be heavy as hell.
Angel. It's Paul Hogan.
I guess it's foreshadowing, right?
Yep.
Someone's going to become an angel in this movie.
Yep.
No one in this movie that we know of that we've looked into the cast was touched by an angel.
No. Yeah. I mean, if you know of somebody who was touched by an angel that was in this movie, please let us know.
Yeah, I'm sure Whoopi Goldberg did something with Della Reese.
Oh, I'm sure. At some point. I'm sure they did something together. Some movie or show or something.
Yes. So they get the angel in. It takes it's kind of a struggle to kind of get it in, but they do it. And then they're kind of looking around the apartment. They're kind of almost settled in. They have most things kind of moved in, and then there's this old chair that's in there. Yeah, this is Sam's old chair. He loves this chair.
He loves this chair, and Molly's like, "What's this chair doing here?" It's like, "I put it here. I love this chair." It's like, "I know you love it, but it shouldn't be in here." Doing the whole, we don't need the old stuff in here in this new space. But it's old. It's comfortable. It's familiar. Let him have his chair.
Let the dude have his chair.
Every man needs a good chair.
Every man needs a comfortable chair. Guess what? He's gonna do. He'll help you out with so many things if he has a comfortable chair.
Mm-hmm.
Let him have his comfy chair. Let him have that one old T-shirt that still fits, and he
it may have
feels
holes in
right
armpits, but you know what? It's comfy.
It's comfy. He can wear it around the house.
It's got a big stain on it, but who cares? It's comfy. He's not wearing it. Is he wearing it out in
public? Probably not. But if he's doing it to do things around the house, or he wakes up in the morning, he's making you coffee in it.
Mm-hmm.
Let him wear that T-shirt.
Yeah.
Anyway, so it cuts that night, and they're in bed,
and they're watching TV. They're watching the news, and there is a report about a plane crash.
Well, at first the TV is not even on, and they're just talking, and then she's starting to get a little frisky with him, and they roll over, and he hits the remote, and then the remote blocks him.
Yeah, and the TV comes on. And
then, like you said, the first response, the news, it's on, and it's about a plane crash. And he's like, wow, another one?
Mm-hmm.
It's like maybe I should rethink that trip to Los Angeles.
Yeah,
I guess apparently he has a trip
coming,
business trip to Los Angeles.
Yeah, so he's like, these things come in threes, you know.
Yeah, and she's like, oh, whatever. Like, I was like you said.
So then
these things come in threes.
Then a very important line comes up right here. So after he says this, she tells him, "You live a charmed life," and that comes into play later. It's very important foreshadowing. But she tells him, "You live a charmed life," and then
And she's not talking about a Third Eye Blind song.
No, that's just a semi-charmed life. But he lives a charmed life,
and that's from 1997.
Yeah.
That's later in the 90s. That's 90s.
Yeah.
That's not late 80s, early 90s.
This is still, this still has hints of the 80s in it. But yeah, Third Eye Blind is all 90s.
The movie that takes place on Wall Street. That's super like 80s.
Yeah.
Anyway,
so then, they go to bed and Molly can't sleep. So she gets up and she goes into her new art studio that they've been renovating, and she starts making a clay pot. She's got her pottery wheel out. She puts the clay on there. She's making her pot there, and Sam comes in.
Well, okay. So I mean, the jukebox is going.
Yeah, jukebox is going, right? And so because they have like an old-fashioned jukebox with like records in there and everything in it. The song that's playing ends, so it puts that record back, brings out another one, and the Righteous Brothers.
Their version,
Melody,
which is the most famous version of Unchained Melody, is on.
Unchained Melody starts playing, and so she's making this pot.
Plus, the pot is, again, it's not like a short, squatty pot.
Nope. It's a long, tall, erect pot.
It looks like the back of the alien's head.
Yep.
If we haven't had enough of that imagery.
So, she's making this pot, and it's a very sensual pottery making scene. And Sam comes in.
Sam walks in.
And he's like, "Hey, what are you doing in here?" She's like, "I couldn't sleep." Okay, so they start talking a little bit more, and then he distracts her, which this part wasn't supposed to happen, and the pot just collapses.
Okay, well, good. I'm glad to know this because that's like the pottery going.
So. Yeah,
anyway,
exactly. But yeah,
would be the opposite of what kind of happens in the movie.
In the script, the pot was not supposed to fall apart there.
It was supposed to get longer?
Yeah, it was supposed to stay in one piece, and they were supposed to work on that pot together instead of trying to start a new one.
Well, they started a new one.
They started a new one. They sure did. Because he sits down right behind her, sort of straddles her like Slater straddling a chair. Saved by the Bell was an underrated show. But anyway. So they're making this pot together, running their hands up and down the clay together. It's just very way more sexual than making a clay pot needs to be. But they're getting clay all over their hands and all this. And then while the song is still playing, they end up, they're not making a pot anymore. Now, they're getting it on. And what I noticed here...
Emotional catharsis.
So, did they really stop what they were doing, like in the middle of it, in the heat of it, and wash their hands?
No, they didn't.
Because after they stopped making the pot, there was no clay on their hands.
Ideally,
they're touching each other, rubbing each other, all this stuff, and there's no clay getting anywhere.
So,
it shows their hands several times. There's no clay on their hands.
So I'm watching this.
They're covered in clay when they're with the pot.
I was actually I noticed this myself. I was thinking about it. I was like, wow, this is going to be one clay scene,
Mm-hmm.
and then looks kind of clean. Like this is going to be dirty.
Yeah. So did they, when they stopped doing the clay, like, okay, pause. Let's go wash
Did they
up.
even turn off the pottery wheel?
I don't think so. Because the song was still playing. Because after they reach emotional catharsis, it's not until then that the song ends. And it actually shows the jukebox, picks up the record, puts it back in its slot. So did all of this occur during the time frame of that one song? Or did they just put it on repeat so it repeated itself a few times?
Realistically, it probably did happen within the course of one song.
Yeah. But that was a lot of clay. They would have had to take a lot of time to clean that off.
Well, okay, yeah, to get that part cleaned off, that would, yeah. If they didn't clean it off, yes, it would be realistic.
Yeah.
I mean, it's 2 a.m. in the morning. Like, what? Again, I don't get, like, if you're that in love, it's like clay or no clay. Just,
I mean, you're going to need to wash up anyway, eventually.
I mean, they love each other. I mean, come on. So,
yeah.
Anyway, famous scene.
Yes, famous scene. One of the most famous scenes from this movie.
Yes.
And as we've mentioned a few times before, the scene that changed pottery forever.
Yes. Uh-huh. It's up, in terms of these type of scenes, I kind of put it there with Enemy at the Gates.
Mm-hmm.
With Jude Law and Rachel Weisz.
Mm-hmm.
There's no pottery in that. There's a bunch of soldiers sleeping right next to them.
Yeah. Yeah.
Anyway, we should probably do Enemy at the Gates.
We should.
We got one more movie out of the way.
Yeah. We should definitely do Enemy at the Gates.
And we love that movie.
Yeah.
Anyway.
So
the next day.
Cut to the next day.
And back to the office.
Sam's
in his
Carl
office
are talking.
And he's looking at his computer and he's seeing like there's just too much money in some of these accounts.
Mm-hmm.
Like some of these accounts shouldn't even exist.
Yes. So, he calls.
And he wants to look into it, but he's supposed to be taking. They're supposed to be going to see Macbeth that night.
Yes. Supposed to be taking Molly to see Macbeth. And so he's talking to Carl about it. He's like, "Hey, I found this discrepancy in here. We need to take care of this." And Carl gets very quizzical.
Yes, he does.
He starts asking a lot of questions about, oh, well, what are you doing tonight? And he's like, well, I'm taking Molly to Macbeth. Okay. Well, yeah. Okay. Well, then I guess we can't get together and work on this. And, and it just, he seems very suspicious about all of this money that's showing up in these accounts.
Yes.
Or not suspicious that the money's showing up, but suspicious of Sam and what he's doing about it.
Yes. Yeah, it's in ways like he's not. Yeah, Sam is suspicious about. Sam's confused about what these accounts are.
Accounts. He's acting very guilty. So Carl is acting very guilty. Is probably a better term for it. But
we'll get to that.
Yeah. But he's trying to brush it off. He's trying to, you can tell he's trying to, cover something up. We don't know what yet, but it's obvious he's trying to cover something up. But yeah, so he specifically asks Sam where he's going to be tonight.
Yes, which again, as soon as you hear that, like, red flag.
Yeah,
red flag.
Yeah,
red flag.
Yeah. Right after he talks about
he says he's going to see
accounts that aren't supposed to exist, and all this money that's not supposed to be there, then he asks him exactly where he's going to be.
Yeah. But again, he's too busy he's really thinking about what this is. So, he's not paying attention to it. One of the things we forgot to mention, there's a scene where they're talking in bed, and then she says that Molly tells Sam that she loves him.
Oh, yes. And he says ditto.
Ditto.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So after the show that night, they're walking home.
Quick. Actually, yeah, I'll get to that in a minute. So yeah, they're walking home.
And it's, they're walking through, some of the alleys and more abandoned parts near their apartment. And Molly's just at this point just kind of frustrated about her career, right?
Mm-hmm.
And he's just trying to cheer her up. It's like she's like, oh yeah, like, why are my pieces or art not selling for certain money or whatever, right? So you can see she's a slightly struggling artist. But again, he's a Wall Street banker, so he's making good money.
Yep.
Right? And so they're talking, and then she says, I want to marry you. Which, again, that's the death sentence right there. Right?
Mm-hmm. And, she starts saying, like, I tell you I love you all the time, but you never say it back to me. He's like, yeah, I say ditto?
She's like, no, yeah, you say ditto. Like, no, that's what that means. Right?
And she's like, but you never actually say, I love you. And before they can get too much farther into this conversation,
this sketchy Puerto Rican guy steps out of the shadows.
Yes, named Willie. Willie Lopez steps out and mugs him. Basically pulls a gun, tells Sam to give him his wallet. And so Molly is pleading with Sam,
this is very Batman-ish.
Yeah.
Just without the 10-year-old.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
Yeah, and Molly's just like, yeah, give him whatever he wants.
Yeah. So, he's reaching in for his wallet and ends up trying to fight the guy off. And, they're, hitting each other, pushing each other up against the wall. And then we hear the gun go off and the mugger runs off. And then Sam runs after him.
Sam chases after him.
Sam chases
after him. And the guy gets away.
And so Sam, once the guy gets away, Sam turns around and he's calling for Molly, and then he sees something. We don't see what he sees yet.
Right. But he hears Molly's voice and she's frantic and screaming.
And it makes it out to
for help.
It makes us think at first, before we even hear Molly, when he turns around and that shocked look shows up on his face, it makes it look like maybe Molly got shot.
Yes.
So he runs over.
Maybe Molly's the one that's been shot.
So he runs over, and then we hear Molly calling for help, and we see her cradling Sam, all bloody, on the ground.
And then you get this look on his face, and he's like, oh shit, that's me.
Mm-hmm.
He just should have ripped the dude's throat out.
He should have. This was after Roadhouse.
He has that ability.
Yeah, we know that he knows how to do that. This was after Roadhouse. So he should have just done that.
It would just be over right there.
Yeah.
Right then.
Yeah. So anyway, before we go any farther right here, I would like to call your attention back to the line when they were sitting in bed watching TV.
Okay.
Where Molly said, you live a charmed life.
Yes.
So the show that they saw right before he was shot, right before Sam was shot, was Macbeth.
Yes.
There's a line in Macbeth, spoken by Macbeth, where he says, I live a charmed life. Shortly before he is killed.
This is actually really good because, it's even said when he's talking, at the office, it's Molly that wants to see that.
Yeah.
He isn't. So obviously, it's probably her favorite Shakespeare play.
Probably. But yeah, so that was
why she said, you live a charmed life.
Exactly.
She should have known better. That would have been killed him right then.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So yeah, she said, you live a charmed life. Macbeth says, I live a charmed life. And then Macbeth dies. And so then Sam dies. Just a little bit of foreshadowing earlier.
Right. Well, he dies, and then you see like the you see the light,
You see the light, and then these
and you
little
see these things kind of in the
fairy
light,
looking things come in.
and
These
he
little
walks
sparklies
away from the light.
Yeah, and he walks away from the light.
And at this point, now there's actually some people kind of helping, and you hear the sirens, the ambulance is coming, and then it actually cuts to the ER,
yeah.
right? And they finally pronounce him dead in the ER, and he's watching this.
And he's trying to talk to Molly.
She's crying.
She can't hear him. And he's trying to just get somebody's attention. And then there's this guy that's there that starts talking to him.
This old Jewish dude.
Yeah, played by Phil Leeds. And
Phil Leeds is always great.
Yeah, he is.
Talk about a great character actor.
Yeah, he is. But yeah, so he starts talking to him.
Was any sitcom that you watched from like 1960 to his death?
Mm-hmm. He was in it.
He was probably a guest star in that sitcom.
Yep. Yeah, so Phil Leeds starts talking to him, and Sam is surprised because he's like, "You can hear me? And you can see me?" And
he's like, "Yeah."
He's like, "Yeah. I mean, why wouldn't I be able to? I mean, this is." You're a ghost.
He's yeah. He's like, I'm just waiting for my wife.
Yeah, I'm just waiting for my wife.
Which makes you wonder: Did he die of a heart attack while waiting for his wife, or is his wife about to die that night too?
I think.
And he's just.
See, I took it as, he had died somehow, and he's just waiting for his wife to die too. Like, not necessarily that it's supposed to be like the same night. It's just, I'm just sitting here. I'm not going to move on until my wife joins me.
Right.
Kind of thing.
That's my thoughts. Like, yeah, he died at the hospital. He's just going to stay at the hospital until, anyway. So, and they're talking about it. And he's saying, like, eventually you'll learn how to get through, like, walls and doors.
Mm-hmm. Walls are a lot easier than they look.
There's another room there, and there's another patient on there, and
he's like, doors look imposing, but they're a lot easier than they look. And yeah, there's a guy laying on on the bed across from them, and there's doctors all around him, and he's like, oh, here we go, here it comes.
And he flatlines,
and then
they start trying to do compressions, and they shock him. It doesn't work, and you just see the guy's kind of ghost. Lift up out of his body.
The light shines down on him.
And the light shines, and there's little fairies,
little like sparkly fairy things in there, and you see his ghost come out of his body, and just goes up into the light, and and Phil Leeds is like, oh, good, it's that one. You never know which is going to be. It's not good when it's the other guys. When it's the other
ones. Which means hell.
Yeah. Get your heaven and your hell.
We will see hell.
Anyway. Oh, we won't see hell. We'll see minions of hell.
We'll see the other guys.
We'll see the other guys. Yeah.
All right. So we get the funeral, right?
So we cut back to Sam's funeral, not the guy that just died on the bed. But we get Sam's funeral.
We get back to their apartment.
So he's attending his own funeral.
Yes.
That's got to be weird.
It's got to be weird. So this is the one thing I want to know, because we see the funeral, then we get back to like the reception, not the after party.
The after party for the funeral.
Unless you're Irish, it is a party. But there's a bunch of people. I mean, a lot of people are there. There's a bunch of kids there, right?
Mm-hmm.
But this entire movie, right? We never see his parents. Are they dead? Are they estranged?
That is a good
question. Even if they are estranged,
why wouldn't they be there at his funeral?
And then, furthermore, like all these kids that are there that are attending afterwards, like where did they come from? Like they're not just kind of acquaintances from work.
I mean, we don't know.
They're nieces, they're nephews.
Yeah, exactly. We there was never any mention of siblings, but I mean, he could have siblings, which then could have kids. Maybe they're just random kids off the street that, wanted to go and crash a funeral.
Yeah.
But I don't know. Yeah. Good question. Where'd those kids come from?
So now, eventually, you get what happens to anything. She's by herself in the apartment. He's there. He's still trying to talk to her. Mm-hmm. She can't hear him.
Yep. She can't hear him.
But now we see they have a cat.
Yes. They have a cat. And the cat hears him.
The cat sees him. Well, that's really. I don't know if the cat sees him necessarily, but the cat senses him.
Yeah, the cat senses him.
He stares the cat in the eyes.
Yeah.
Does Azazel possess this cat? Or has Azazel ever possessed this cat?
I mean, that might be. It did look similar to the cat that Azazel possessed at the end of Fallen. Huh. Except Fallen was a few years after this, so.
It was.
Maybe it is the same cat, though.
Maybe it was the same cat. The cat got so scared that it went all the way to the cabin.
Yeah, maybe Azazel was able to possess the cat because of the cat's experience with Sam.
Anyway.
But anyway.
He looks at the cat. The cat does the right?
Like cats do.
And runs off. It's like what it sees or and experiences.
The cat's name is Kitty. I don't know if that's actually the cat's name or not, but that's the only thing it's called.
No one ever really just looks at the dog and says, "Hey, puppy." I might say, "Hey, pup."
What's up, dog?
What up, dog? Anyway.
I mean, the dog in Cowboys and Aliens was dog. They just called it dog.
That is true. Another recent episode of ours. So, yeah, I guess at some point she leaves the house. She leaves, and then that's when he's just alone in the thing. He looks at the cat. Mm-hmm. So here's a cat, and he's looking through some of their old mementos, and there's a ticket to Dave Brubeck's show.
Mm-hmm.
Right, and then Carl walks in. And he's looking around. He's snooping around.
He's like, "What are you looking for, Carl?"
Carl leaves. Right,
Carl Brunner,
and then Molly gets home. Leaves.
Yeah, Molly gets home, and then
that's when he starts to see where Carl's going. Right.
Yeah. So he follows Carl.
And he goes down to the subways, and then he's just waiting on a subway train, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's not a crowded train, but it's not an empty train either, right?
Yeah.
It's probably about half full.
Yeah. I mean, it is pretty late at night at this point. So it's not like rush hour subway.
And then there's this angry dude.
Right? That looks right at Sam and starts yelling at him. He's like, "This is my train! Get off my train!"
Right, and at first, the way, if you isolate everything out of this, you'd almost think oh, it's some angry, potentially homeless person or someone that's mentally ill on there, right?
Yeah,
but it's just this other ghost that starts screaming at him
because this train is his territory.
Is able to push him.
Yeah, pushes him through the train,
and not just phasing through the door, the back of the train, right? Because if you're familiar with subway trains, right, or any trains for that matter, right? Between cars, right, you have the doors, and they're usually there's glass pane, right? Yeah. And he actually is able to open the door and shatters the glass, right? And he's just kind of between the cars,
yeah,
and he's confused about how this guy was able to physically move him.
Because this whole time, Sam has been trying to grab stuff, trying to do, physically, manipulate the outside world. And he hasn't been able to do any of that.
Yes. The actor that plays this angry ghost is Vincent Schiavelli.
Yes.
This will not be the last that we see of him.
Nope.
Right. So, how does he? I'm trying to remember how he discovers the guy that shot him, because he's able to follow him down to Brooklyn.
It's no, that's after he enters the apartment.
That's right.
Yeah.
That guy. That's right. The other guy enters the apartment, and that's right. The stupid dude. It's like, because he looks at the cat again to scare that guy off.
Yeah, because he's trying. So after the whole train, after the whole crazy train man thing, so the train guy kicks him off the train, and he goes back to the apartment to be with Molly and to try to get her attention, and she's there, and she goes into the bedroom.
Yeah, and she goes in. She's changing. She's about to take a shower, right?
And while she's in there,
she takes off her shirt. She's in her bra.
Then Willie comes in.
And you see her backside, and he's kind of looking, and he's trying to figure out a way to get out. Right? He figures, okay, well, I can get out while she's in the shower, right?
Yeah.
But he doesn't like her looking at her, right? And he just wants to he wants to see her out
because
she had locked the door cat again.
Because she had locked the door, and Willie picked the lock and came in, and
that's right.
Yeah. And
Thank you. I forgot about that. Yes.
Yeah, so he's just standing at the top of the stairs, basically watching her get undressed to get in the shower. And Sam's trying to warn Molly, but he can't get her attention because, he doesn't know how to make her hear him or anything like that, or to manipulate anything in the physical realm.
So he decides to stare at the cat again.
Yeah. So, but he remembers because the cat's sitting there on a little pedestal.
Yeah, the little cat,
and
thing.
He put the pussy on a pedestal, but so he remembers that the cat can sense him. So he tries to get the cat's attention, and nothing's really working for that, because he's got to do something to get to protect Molly, to get Willie out of there,
right?
So that he doesn't hurt Molly. So he just gets in the cat's face and screams, and the cat freaks out, jumps up, scratches Willie's face.
Like right under the eye.
Yeah, scratches his cheek, and then Willie, gets stunned, and he, runs out because it gets Molly's attention.
Yeah, and that's when he actually chases him down. Yes.
Yeah. So when
the subway, that's when when entire Willie sequence happens.
Then yeah.
But then he's still able to follow him down to Brooklyn. Right.
Yeah. So
and he lives in like a kind of a rough part of Brooklyn. He's in a rundown apartment, right? He looks up, he sees his name on the thing, right? And he follows him up to his apartment, right? And he gets in there and he takes a phone call, right? And I guess he dials the phone, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you don't know who he's speaking with. He just says, "No, I couldn't get it, but just give me a couple days and it's gonna happen."
Yeah.
So that's when Sam leaves, and he's outside. He looks across the street, and there's a sign for a psychic. Oda Mae Brown.
Yes, Oda Mae Brown. And so he goes.
So he walks in. They got a little like waiting area. There's people waiting there,
mm-hmm.
right? Kind of like almost like a doctor's office or dentist's office, or.
Yep. But it's a psychic's office.
He walks to like this back area, right? And there's these two ladies there. They they call out someone that's waiting there, right?
These two ladies who are Oda Mae's sisters.
Rose. I'm sorry, not Rose.
Yeah. Rosa Santiago. Rosa Santiago.
Angelina Estrada.
And so
she wants to basically, contact her dead husband,
mm-hmm.
right? And I like how they go back there, right? It's kind of what you might think of it like it's there's a round table, there's a tablecloth on there, and
mm-hmm.
They give it very kind of vibes you might kind of associate with.
Yeah.
And there's a closet, and they each open the door,
mm-hmm.
They show in the closet, kind of like how magician shows. There's nothing in here.
Nothing in there. And then they
close the closet.
They close it, and they're like, "Oda May, come to us," you know. And then they open the door again, and there she is.
It is Whoopi Goldberg
standing right there. And so she comes out, sits down at the table, and you know it's clear from the start here that she's a fraud. Yeah, she's not a real psychic.
So Sam's there, like he sees it right away. He knows it, but you know, this person is grieving.
Yeah.
Right? So.
Yeah, she's
and then, you know,
faking her way through.
She just starts naming names, and
she just starts rapid fire naming names until Rosa says, "Oh yes."
You know, mostly Spanish sounding names.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah. It's like, "Oh yes, Maria. I know Maria." But then Sam, you know, just comments under his breath, you know, that she's fake and all this, and she replies to him.
Right, she's just hearing it, and like it's nothing at first, right? Yeah. And then her sisters kind of start recognizing it, like what she responding to.
Doing? Yeah.
And then finally, she realizes what she's doing, right? And they're trying to conjure up. Yeah, she's trying to pretend she's gonna conjure up Maria to talk about, you know, the dead husband.
Yeah.
You know how he's doing, right? She wants that money, or they want that money because the sisters are obviously on as well.
Yep. And so Sam ends up kind of ruining her whole little scam there.
Yes,
but she can hear him.
And she runs in, and so she runs in the closet.
Yeah, so he's like, "Oh, so you can hear me, so you're gonna have to help me." And funny thing here, so originally, Oda May was supposed to be an actual psychic.
Okay.
But they thought it would be funnier if she was a clear fraud and was still the only person that could hear Sam.
I think it works out well that way.
Yeah, I do too.
I mean, that's the thing about it, right? Is like Whoopi and like Swayze. I mean, they work really well together.
They really do.
And throughout the movie, because these scenes where like he's there, but no one else recognizes that he's there, and they play the scenes well.
Yeah.
So we cut back, and now we're actually back at the sister's apartment, right? I get, you know, and the two sisters are in the kitchen, and you know, she's, you know, kind of in the living room, and she's saying like, "Yeah, no, my grandmother had it, and my mother had it. I never thought I had it." Right? And he's still talking to her, and like, you know, she's kind of responding to him, kind of not. The sisters are still like having no idea what she's saying. And then his love, where she just finally says, "Are you white?"
Yeah. Why do you sound like Patrick Swayze?
It's so.
So he's like, you gotta call Molly. You gotta just warn her. You know, let her know that you know, she's in danger.
She's in danger. I'm not leaving until you do this.
And so she reluctantly, you know, calls, and of course Molly doesn't believe her.
Well, she you know, was like, "Yeah, well, you know, I don't want to go." Well, first of all, you gotta go downtown. I was like, "I'm not going downtown.
Mm-hmm.
I hate going downtown."
Right. That's right.
But like, so that's like, well, you call, right? She's like, "Well, she won't believe me, right?"
He's like, "It doesn't hurt to call." So she called, and of course Molly didn't believe her.
Yeah, she just says, "I have a message from Sam," and then she just clicks.
Yep.
Hangs up. Right? Which would make sense, right? So that night, and he's trying to get her to do it again, and she won't.
Mm-hmm. She won't do it.
So he first just starts saying, "Henry VIII, I am.
I am Henry VIII, I am." And he's just saying that over and over and Second verse, same as the first. Henry VIII, I am, I am. Henry VIII, I am. And just on and on and on.
That's the point where he wants her to actually go downtown. And that's why he's singing that. So she will do that.
Yeah.
But she won't go downtown because she hates downtown.
Yeah. So, he's driving her crazy. Won't stop singing the song. She's trying to sleep and he won't. He's just sitting back in a chair just singing.
He's got all the time in the world. He's dead.
Yep. So finally she just gets fed up. She's like, okay, fine, I'll do whatever you want. Just stop singing that song. So the next day, they go downtown.
And she just decides, she just rings the bells, like, no one answers. No one answered. She starts walking away. And so he just starts singing 99 bottles of beer on the wall, 99 bottles of beer.
And she stops. She turns around. She yells up to Molly to try to get her attention. And so Molly comes to the window, and they're sort of, yelling back and forth. And
again, she still doesn't believe it, obviously. Yeah. And so he starts telling Oda Mae things that
only he would.
The two of them would know.
Only the two of them would know. And
so there's green underpants. There's a show they went to, right?
Yeah.
And then so I love how eventually, like, she just turns away. She turns off the thing, and they keep screaming up there. And there's this guy that's working like below their apartment.
Yeah, the neighbor.
And he's like, "Woody, stop it, please!"
She starts arguing with him. Yeah, so Oda Mae starts arguing with him in the middle of trying to talk to Molly, and then Molly, isn't believing her, and Oda Mae is like, "All right, just listen to me, or I'm gonna leave." and so the guy's like, "Oh, please do, please go," and then Oda Mae just lays into the guy again.
And the only way, like, Whoopi Goldberg is gonna do it.
Yeah. So,
but she finally comes downstairs, and they're talking outside. She still doesn't believe it, and then she just says, "Oh, well, he says he loves you." She's like, "No, he wouldn't say that." And so she's gonna walk back in, and then he tells her, "Say ditto." And she's like, "What? Ditto?"
And then she's like, "Okay, he says ditto." And then that gets a reaction from Molly.
They did a pretty good job of, like, playing off how she's having this conversation with him. And almost sounds like crazy because she's talking to thin air. And looks like she's having that conversation. Yeah. But that's what gets her, is like, oh, well, that has to be Sam.
Yeah. So
the two of them go up to the apartment, and Sam, follows up. He's just trying to tell her different things, and she does it in a very blunt way. She's just like, "You in danger, girl."
Yeah, he's like, yeah. So we need to let her know that she's in danger, but don't tell her that she's in danger. Got to ease into it. He's like, "Molly, I got to tell you, you in danger, girl." Yeah, so Sam is telling Oda Mae what to say, and what to tell Molly, and Molly hasn't opened the door. She's still very skeptical about Oda
That's
Mae.
right, because it's still on the opposite sides of the door at this point. You're right. Yeah,
and
very skeptical.
So Sam has figured out, because he figured out when Willie left how to walk through doors.
Yes.
So he walks through the door, because that's how he chased him out of the apartment, was, he was able to go through the door. So he goes through the door and calls out to Oda Mae and tells her that to mention that Molly is wearing the shirt that he bought her for Christmas. Or
That's
wearing
right.
the shirt
Yes.
and then the earrings that he got for Christmas. That's what it was. Wearing the shirt that she got this one time, and then she's wearing the earrings that he got her for Christmas. And so Otome relays that information, and there's no way that she would be able to know that information about Molly. Especially since they can't see each other right now, so because there's a door between them.
There is a door between them.
So he's like, "Hey, slide a penny under the door."
The penny's later.
Yes, that's right. The penny is later. Never mind. Because that's after he learns that stuff. But wait, no, this whole scene here was later.
Yes.
Yeah, this whole door scene here was later.
Right, that's what I thought. I thought they were actually in his apartment, their apartment, talking about it.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, they're in. Because she called Otome up and they're sitting down talking about it, and because after this conversation is when she goes to the police.
Right. Well, first she talks to Carl about it. Carl doesn't really believe it, right?
Mm-hmm.
He's like, "Oh yeah, no, you're grieving. I understand why you might think this."
Yeah, because she calls Carl after
Right.
she's done talking to Otome. She calls Carl, yeah.
And Carl, so we didn't really kind of talk about this. There's a scene where Carl earlier is in the apartment with her, and she doesn't want to leave, right? And he says, like, "No, you should get out and take a walk with me," right? And that's when Willie comes up. So she reluctantly goes out with him, like, "Okay, yeah, I should get outside,"
Mm-hmm.
right?
Yeah,
and that's
right.
when Willie comes up, and we follow him after
we
that,
get that
right?
scene.
But yeah, so he's like, "You know what? No, I can take care of this. Don't worry about this. I'll look at it." Right. But she eventually just decides to go to the cops. Right?
Yeah, so she goes to the cops. She talks to Stephen Root.
Yep. Stephen Root in a very serious role.
Mm-hmm.
There is another officer there. But I thought I had written the actress's name down, but I don't see it now.
Yeah. And so, yeah.
Not important because she's got a very small role.
Yeah, so in the conversation...
Stephen Root is slightly larger.
In the conversation in the apartment, Sam relayed through Otome that, the guy that killed him's name was Willie Jones, or was, Willie Lopez. And...
So...
Yeah.
That's right, yeah.
So she goes there to see if they can look into Willie Lopez. And so Stephen
before
Root,
she goes to the cops, so we actually see where he follows Carl. He follows Carl.
Mm-hmm.
He follows Carl all the way down to Willie's apartment.
all the way down to Willie's apartment. And
he thinks he's going to confront Willie about this.
Yeah, but no.
That's his expectation.
Yes. But it ends up Carl is there to chastise Willie for not doing the job. For not completing the job.
Willie's just like, "How does she know my name?" Right? And Carl's like, I don't know, but she knows it.
And so this is where Sam finds out that Carl is the one that paid Willie to kill him.
So, Carl leaves the apartment, and Carl's getting into his car, right?
Mm-hmm.
And as he's doing that, Swayze just starts kind of wailing at him, right?
He's
obviously, he does not know how to manipulate matter yet.
But he's just his hands are just passing right through him. And yeah, so then is this when Carl goes back to the apartment?
That's later.
A little later.
Because now this is when we get not yet. Almost, yeah. So she ends up talking to the cops. That's the next thing is she's talking to the cops. It's like it's the next day. And she's talking to Stephen Root, as you're saying.
Mm-hmm. And so, so Stephen
Right?
Root,
And,
he goes to pull a file on Willie, but there's none.
another lady officer that's there, played by Laura Drake, and she's kind of mocking the entire thing.
Mm-hmm.
I got more important things to do, right?
Yeah. So then Stephen Root acts as the sympathetic cop.
Yep.
To try to ease some of Molly's,
because she's obviously distressed.
Frustration and distress and all that. So
he's empathetic to the situation.
Mm-hmm.
He doesn't really believe her necessarily, but he's going to do what he can to help her.
Yeah. So he goes to try to pull a file on Willie Lopez, and there is none. He's clean.
But there is a file on Oda Mae Brown.
There is a big file on Oda Mae Brown. All kinds of like fraud and theft and all this stuff.
He goes, I guess she lives down in Louisiana and was showing different aliases that she had and different things she's been charged with and arrested for, right? He's like, he's just saying, like, no, these people, they know people are grieving and that they're susceptible. They'll look at the obituaries and then find names and
they'll research.
Their dumpster dive or do research,
mm-hmm.
do anything to prey on people like you. And she can't quite believe it. It's like, no, like, I think she's at the point where she believes, like, yeah, this person is kind of a sketchy person, but I believe her about this.
Yeah.
So, but while she's there, that's when we see Carl at the apartment, right? And, he's looking through things. He finds this Reeboks box, right?
Mm-hmm.
The shoe box. And now he's looking, like, he wants to find this code, the passcode for the computer, so he can transfer the money to the right place. So what we're going to find out eventually is that he wants to help as he was talking with Willie about, he's trying to launder money. He's got there's people at the bank that he works with.
Mm-hmm.
They're trying to launder drug money. And they've created a fake account. And they're going to transfer it to another account that's held by a real person. It's going to pretend to be this, pretend to own that account and then withdraw the cash. And now that's the money, right? Mm-hmm. Anyway. So they had the file on Oda and her sisters, right? And we finally cut back to Carl. Now he's at his desk, right? And he's talking to one of the guys on the phone. And tell him specifically which account to do it with, right? Well, he gets in first. He's excited about it, so he calls them. Excuse me. They tell him tomorrow at what time to transfer the money.
Yeah.
Right.
So it's $4 million.
So we finally get back to the apartment. Now he has the thing. He decides he's gonna go back to the apartment.
He's gonna go back
with some Japanese apple pears.
Yes. And he's gonna try to move in on Sam's woman.
I love it. It's hilarious, right? So he had this coffee.
Mm-hmm.
He asked for more cream.
Mm-hmm.
And so why
and she dumps it all over himself.
I love how he gives himself a coffee bath.
Yeah, he just dumps it all over his shirt. He's like, "Oh, oops, oops! I better take my shirt off.
I gotta take my shirt off. Ooh, look at my hairy. Yeah."
And she's like, "Oh, can I put that in the washer for you?" He's like, "No, it's okay. It'll dry." I'll just sit here with my shirt off for the rest of this conversation.
Meanwhile, Sam is looking at all of this,
mm-hmm.
and he's dismayed. It's like,
yeah,
what are you doing?
What are you doing? First you have me killed. Now you're trying to move in on my woman.
You've broken the bro code multiple times. So I love how he just gets angry and he just kind of like leaps.
Yeah, so he
kind of goes through. There's a table behind.
Because Carl moves in to try to kiss Molly.
That's right. Yes.
And Molly stops him, or they're about, because then he sort of dives at him and jumps through Molly and Carl. And as he's going toward the floor, his hand hits a picture of Sam and Molly that's sitting on the coffee table, and the picture falls to the floor. And that sort of startles Molly, and she realizes what's going on, and she's like, "Okay, we got to stop." She stops Carl from going any farther.
And you know what? Carl kind of plays it cool. It's like, "Oh, yeah, all right, yeah, no, I understand." He covers his chest back up.
Yep.
He now has a coffee stain on it with his shirt.
Yeah.
So Sam's still pissed. So he runs back to the subway train. I think this scene's kind of funny.
Yeah, it is. Because he realizes that he knocked that picture off the table. And so he's and then
he remembers the ghost.
He remembers the ghost from the train, from the subway, and how he was able to physically manipulate things, around him.
So I think this part's kind of funny because he's searching through different trains trying to find this ghost.
Yeah.
Right. But it's the way it's shot and cut and directed. It's the music is really intense.
Yeah.
It's all these quick edits.
Yeah.
Until he finally finds the guy, right? And the guy, same thing's like, "Get off my train."
And he's like, "No.
Ford, get off my plane."
Which, by the way, I don't know how we made it through the entire Cowboys and Aliens episode without mentioning Harrison Ford's line in that movie: "Get off my planes." It was in there.
It was in there.
But anyway, so he's like, "No, I'm not going to get off your train." And
so he tells it. So he tells me he looks at him like, "Show me how to do things," right?
So what do you mean?
And then finally the ghost just calls him "You stubborn asshole."
So he has a little training.
So they're both off the train now. They're on an empty platform.
Mm-hmm.
And there's this bottle cap. He's trying to push with his finger. He's like, "No, you can't think about."
Yeah, you're trying to use your finger. You can't actually touch it. You got to use your mind. You got to move it with your mind.
There is no spoon.
There is no spoon. We'll get to that movie eventually too. But yeah, so
it's got, like I said, it's got kind of from the gut in your mind, right? You got and so he shows him something, right? He moves. Is that when he moves is it the cigarette dispenser that he shows him, or no? That's later. The cigarette dispenser's later. He moves something else that's on the platform that kind of demonstrate.
Yeah, no, didn't he flick flick or throw
so
the? So
finally, Sam's
the
one can flick he flicks the bottle cap, right?
And then there's a can that he kicks. And
so then they start getting talking. It's like, okay, Sam's just kind of interested in him, right? It's like, well, no, I've been here since they pushed me. Yeah. And he's like, what? They pushed you?
He's like, yeah. Well, you think I just fell on the tracks myself?
It's like, no, you think I was? He's really sensitive about this, right? And so he finally says, well, fuck you.
Yeah, and this is when he gets up.
A cigarette. Again, this is 1990. There's cigarette machines.
Yeah, and so he hits the cigarette machine, and all these packs of cigarettes fall out. And then he starts, he sees them all. He's like, "Oh, I would give anything for just one drag.
One more drag." And he looks like, "Who sent you?" And he leaves. He hops through another train and through another wall, to some other platform, The tunnel. We never see that ghost again.
Nope. But he served his purpose. He was there and taught
That's right.
Sam how to manipulate things, how to affect the physical area around him.
So now armed with his, and goes back. Sam goes back to Ida. Now Ida is popular among ghosts.
Mm-hmm. Yes, Otome is very popular among ghosts. Because he goes back there to try to get her help again, and she's there. She's actually, communicating with people's loved ones. Because whatever happened with Sam unlocked something in her, and now she can communicate with the dead. And so there's this long line of ghosts at her table.
It's funny when you get in there. There's a couple actual people that are sitting there, and a long line of ghosts around the table. So almost like when you first glance of it, you might think, "Oh, this is like this huge séance." I guess in some ways it kind of is. It's just that it's very few living people and a bunch of dead people.
Yeah. So she calls out for one of them, for one of the names, and it's the next guy in line. And well, first Sam answers, and then the guy's like, "No, I'm him.
I'm Orlando.
I'm Orlando." Yeah, that's right. Calling for Orlando.
And she's still trying to talk to Sam. It's like, "You got ghosts from Jersey coming to me."
And this is right in the middle of these people who are trying to communicate with Orlando.
And then the woman there that's trying to hire her to contact Orlando, apparently. It's like, "You talking to me?" And then Oda's like, "You'll know when I'm talking to you."
And so Orlando starts getting
finally
impatient.
Orlando possesses.
Yes. Orlando gets impatient, and so he just jumps right into Otome's body.
Orlando is played by Augie Blunt. And he gets in there, and Whoopi, Oda, Whoopi, Orlando, whoever you want to call it, looks around and looks at, I guess, his wife. He's like,
he's like,
damn,
you changed your hair.
It's like, "Oh, you like my hair?"
I didn't say I liked it. But and then the guy that was behind him in line, the ghost that was behind him in line, he, as soon as Orlando jumps into Whoopi's body, then he's like, "Oh, he did it. He actually did that." Right? And so Otome, kicks him out of her body. And when he comes out, he just collapses. And the guy behind him is like, "Yep, possession wipes you out." Possession is exhausting. So, Otome makes everybody leave, both living and dead. And,
that's right.
Yeah.
Well, Sam stays.
So he needs her help because he knows what Carl's doing.
And he knows the account with the money. So his plan is they're going to withdraw that money.
Yep. It's the account for Rita Miller.
So you have a bunch of fake IDs. You're going to use one of them. You're going to put your name to it. They're going to pretend to be this person.
Yeah, you're going to pretend to be Rita Miller, and you're going to go and close this account.
So they're back down the financial district, and they're walking by, and there's this table set up. There's two nuns, right? They're trying to raise money for a homeless shelter,
is
that
foreshadowing also? When was Sister Act?
So I wanted to talk about this.
I'm trying to remember, was Sister Act after this? Or
it is after
before?
This. It's 1992.
Yeah, that's right.
And is it the same character? She eventually decided she just had to go.
Could be.
Become a singer in Reno, and
could
then
be change her name.
And,
I mean, it would totally make sense with her character in Sister Act.
Exactly.
Yeah. Huh.
Anyhow, Now, maybe they finally figured out what she did with that money.
Maybe.
Anyhow, so they go in and they talk with one of the tellers there about what she wants to do. And tell her it's just to go upstairs and finish off everything. And then
so she's up there. There's a card
she's signing it. And I love how like she's just talking to this guy that's not there and saying things that don't make any sense or
and of course,
someone
so the card that he gives her to sign, she starts signing her own name.
Yes.
And then Sam reminds her, hey, you're Rita Miller. You got to sign Rita Miller. It's like, oh, wait, can I get a new card? I accidentally signed the wrong name.
And the lady's like, what?
It's she gives her a new name, which, I mean, that right there is a big red flag.
Yeah, very big.
But, yeah, the people at this bank don't seem to really know that.
They don't care.
So they give her a new card. She signs Rita Miller. And then she goes with the guy to which this is a guy that Sam and Molly know. They've spent time with him.
Right. Well, they go to they talk with a guard. And they say, yeah, I got they asked to see Lyle Ferguson.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So Lyle comes over and sitting down with Oda Mae, to close the account, and he's like, oh, you're gonna be withdrawing $4 million. It's like $4 million.
It's like $4 million.
Yes, $4 million. Yep. That's what I'm gonna withdraw. $4 million.
I love it. They have a little conversation because like the way they portray is like he doesn't know who she is. She's what she would look like. Sam has her pretend like they met at a party, the Christmas party last year. It's like, he was too drunk. He wouldn't remember any new person there. And
then starts asking about his kids,
Yeah, so he
by name,
information that he knows, and that makes it right. Yeah, it's like $4 million.
He's like,
well,
how would you like that? And she's like
10s and 20s,
10s and 20s.
He's like, what?
And then Sam's like, cashier's check. She's like, cashier's check. That'll work.
So as they're wrapping up, about to go out, right? Demi Moore is coming.
Yeah, Molly comes in, and she sees Oda Mae.
Yeah, just as they're getting
just as they're leaving, because Sam
does not see this.
No, Sam sees her come in.
Well, he does. So
he's like, we gotta go,
but he doesn't see her recognize.
No,
Oda's there.
No, right. He doesn't. He doesn't see that part. But yeah, he sees Molly come in, and before Molly looks in their direction, he goes to Oda Mae. He's like, we gotta go. Molly's here. So Oda Mae, real quick, gets up and leaves. Excuses herself and leaves with the cashier's check. And as they're leaving, Molly sees Oda Mae. And so she walks up to Lyle, and she's like, were you just helping her? It's like, yeah. He's like, that's Oda Mae Brown. It's like, no, her name's Rita Miller.
Rita Miller. It's like, he's like, is there something wrong?
It's like, what was she doing? She was closing an account. Okay. So, that just...
Another red flag.
And it's going along with what she learned from Stephen Root about Oda Mae.
Yes. But she just, she says nothing. And she leaves. And then we're back down street level with Sam and Oda Mae.
Mm-hmm.
And she's ready to cash that check.
Yeah, she's ready to cash that check. And she's going, she's like... And
Sam like, you can't do that.
You can't do that. Money. You can't take it. That's blood money. You got to go. So endorse it and give it to those nuns over there. It's like, what are you talking about?
Like,
this is my money. He's like, I never said you got to keep the money.
Besides,
this is blood money.
This will protect you.
Mm-hmm. This will protect
they'll
you.
Look for you as long as you have that money.
Yeah, but this is blood money. We got to put it to good use. So giving it to charity is an excellent use of it.
she endorses it. And then in the pay to line, she writes the name of the sisters and their shelter. And the sisters are very appreciative. Right now, it's a folded check. They have no idea at this point how much money this check is for.
Yeah. And so she starts to hand it over, and the nun grabs it, and Otome won't let it go.
Sam's talking to her, and she keeps talking to him, and eventually she lets go.
And then, she's, kicking herself for giving away $4 million.
Yep.
But
he's like, you're gonna thank me for this later.
Yeah, you're gonna thank me for this later, because if you still had that money, they would be coming after you. So,
and so we cut, and now you have Carl. Like, he's ready to do the transfer, right?
He's working after hours. Like he's
about to do it.
At the office after hours.
That account has no money in it.
And meanwhile, Sam is sitting in a chair behind him.
He's like, "You're going to be fertilizer."
He's like, "You're going to be fertilizer." Because Sam's just laughing because he knows where the money is. And so then Sam kind of kicks.
He starts fucking with him.
Yeah, he's sitting in a rolling chair, so he sort of kicks up against the column next to him, and rolls the chair across across behind Carl, and so Carl just sees this empty chair just fly across the room, just roll across the room, and so he's like, what's going on? So he turns off his computer, his old-fashioned computer, his old,
I love it, yes,
late 80s computer,
the green font.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Which I don't remember if it was Jerry Zucker or Bruce Rubin that mentioned this part, that there are two things in this movie that he believes are what date the movie, and one is the computer monitors.
Yeah, that's any movie this time period with computers.
And the other was,
there's payphones in this movie, but they're not featured that prominently.
Yeah, but that wasn't one of them. It was.
I have a thought. It's from an upcoming scene. I don't know.
Here we go. It was Bruce Rubin. The two things that date the film are, that's right, the computer monitor and Arsenio Hall, because they're watching Arsenio at Otome's.
That was what I was going to say. Yeah. Upcoming scene.
Because an upcoming scene, Otome and her sisters are watching Arsenio Hall.
Wow. Before we get to that scene, he's still messing with Carl, right? And then he just starts typing on the computer. It's just murderer.
Yeah.
And he starts repeating Sam. Right. So he goes back to Molly's apartment, right? And he asks for Pepto.
Yes.
Right. But then Sam starts screwing with him in the apartment.
Mm-hmm.
Right. She goes upstairs to get some medicine, and right. And she still keeps talking about seeing Otome there. So now he's really concerned about things, and now he's piecing some things together. Yeah. He's getting concerned that she's going to find out. So.
And earlier it was established that Otome and Willie live in the same place. They live in the same area.
Yes. So his plan is he's going to set fire to the apartment. So he turns on the stove, and Sam turns it off.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So he firmly believed that Sam's a ghost now.
Yeah.
And he's messing with him.
Yeah.
And so he basically makes a deal. It's like, I need that money by 11. Otherwise, I'm going to kill her.
Mm-hmm.
So finally cut back. It's back to Otome's place with her sisters in Brooklyn. And Arsenio Hall is on.
They're watching Arsenio Hall.
But the sisters want to watch Love Connection. Oda wants to watch Arsenio.
Mm-hmm. and and Carl had told Willie to kill Oda Mae.
Yes.
Because now that Carl knows that Sam is there, that Sam's around, he believes Molly about Oda Mae. And so he knows that she's the one that's been in contact with him, so she had to have something to do with, the money going missing. So he sends Willie after her. And so Sam gets over there and warns Oda Mae. And so they all, run out of the room. And
they run out of the room. They're trying to pound on the doors of different, apartments. And First Lady opens up. Again, she's got a little chain. Looks at it, she's like, hell no! She slams the door on them. And, they finally get into one, and they're hiding, in that apartment. We got Willie and Carl, and Willie says he's going to, Carl's going to look elsewhere. He tells Willie, look around there and stay in that apartment. And Sam shows up.
Mm-hmm.
And he starts scaring the crap out of him.
Starts scaring the crap out of Willie.
He kind of destroys the apartment. Not totally, but enough to get Willie out of the apartment.
Mm-hmm.
And he chases him on the streets and just following him on the streets. And again, it's where they are in like Brooklyn is where you kind of have some of the elevated trains in New York, right? And so he's kind of under them, and he keeps running around.
Running into traffic.
He finally gets Joe Blacked.
Yes, he runs into traffic and gets hit, and then a truck comes. And
he gets hit by one car, and a truck comes, and he gets pinned.
Yeah, not as amazing as the scene in Meet Joe Black. Not as amazing.
This scene might have inspired Meet Joe Black for all.
It might have. It might have. But
it's not the pinball that Brad Pitt becomes.
No. But he ends up.
And, we see Willie, and he steps away from the cars, and he's looking around.
Mm-hmm.
And then he sees Sam. He looks at Sam, and then he looks at the car and the truck.
And Willie's laying
and there's
there
his body pinned and laying on the hood of that car.
And Sam's like, "You're dead."
Well, one of my favorite parts is when he yells "boo" at him before he gets hit.
He's like, "Boo!"
And he looks at him. It's like, "You're a ghost now too. You're dead."
Because that was one of the things that he did to scare Willie. Also, he wrote "boo" on the bathroom mirror.
That's right. And then
Willie sort of steps back into the road, and he hears these noises. And these black shadowy figures.
Black shadows that start coming.
That have weird smiley faces. Yeah,
it's not a design. They probably could have done better with that.
Yeah. So and they're making this like moaning sound, which interesting thing here. So the sound of these shadow figures, you might call them demons, whatever, that drag, the bad people to hell. The sound that they make, it is actually babies crying in reverse. It was babies crying played, or like slowed down and played in reverse.
Okay, I could see that, I guess.
So that's how they made the sound for these shadow figures. But anyway, so a whole group of them grabs Willie's ghost, and drags him to hell. Just carries him off.
Yeah. I think it's pretty safe to say he's going to hell.
Mm-hmm.
That's right. He going to hell.
Yeah. So that's the other guys that Phil Leeds was talking about earlier.
Yeah. Seems like you can escape the light to heaven. You cannot escape the shadows to hell.
Yeah.
Anyway, so he gets back. He gets back to Otome, and they get in a cab together because they need to go warn Molly now.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And so, and the cabbie there, he's not going that fast. He's like, you gotta tell him to step on it. Right. And he won't. So he phases himself.
We missed the divider. We missed the whole part here. Because, so the whole door part with the penny.
That's coming.
That was.
Sorry.
Okay. Wait, I guess you're right. I was getting ahead of myself. Yeah, I was getting ahead of myself. Never mind. Yeah, so that's coming.
Sorry. Yeah. It's like, right after this, right? So the cabbie won't step on it. And so he phases through and he steps on it. They get there. And she still won't believe Oda, right? Because this is the part earlier we're talking about where they're outside the door. Right? And he walks to the door and starts describing what she's wearing. It says she's starting to believe it kind of now. Right? And talks about also the not just what she's wearing, but also the earrings that she has.
Yeah.
Right? And so finally he says, like, how about you push a penny under the door? It was like, a penny?
Like, yeah, just do it. Just put a penny under the door. And so she slides a penny under the door, and he picks it up.
And he starts pushing it up the door.
Uh-huh.
Right? So I let the scene, how we're viewing it right now, is you see his finger.
Yeah, we see his finger.
Pushing it up the door.
Pushing up the door. And then, he has it resting.
Kind of like he rested it on his finger.
And then sort of moves it toward
the next angle that we get of it,
face.
right, would be really more from Molly's perspective, where it just looks like it's floating.
Yeah. Yeah. So this is where she knows for sure now that Sam is there. And so
she lets Oda into the apartment.
Yeah. So.
And the three of them are just kind of sitting there together, right? And obviously, only Oda and Molly can see each other.
Mm-hmm.
They can hear it, and the two of them can hear each other. But of course, only
Oda can hear.
Sam can hear each other. Sam. So, and he just starts, kind of relaying things, as kind of like more that kind of typical medium fashion.
Mm-hmm.
He just says, "I'd give anything to touch you one more time."
Yeah, and then Otome tells him, "You can use my body."
So Patrick Swayze possesses.
Yeah, so Patrick Swayze possesses Whoopi Goldberg and cuddles a bit with Molly, and this whole time, while we're watching, it's Patrick Swayze and Demi Moore.
Yes.
Once he possesses Otome's body,
right,
then she becomes Patrick Swayze from our perspective. From Molly's perspective, it's still Whoopi Goldberg. So that's got to be awkward.
From Patrick Swayze's perspective, he looks like Whoopi Goldberg.
Yeah. Yeah.
And he sees Demi Moore.
So all this cuddling that we see, and then he kisses her and all this, that's Whoopi Goldberg doing all that. So
I kind of like, so at first when all that's happening, it's silent at first, but then On-Chain Melody comes back in.
Yeah.
Right? And again, it's Patrick Swayze as Whoopi Goldberg, and Demi Moore seeing it that way. Anyway, so but then we get the view of Swayze again, and we finally get this pounding on the door, and of course it's Carl. But Carl's up there. And so he's just yelling, Molly. And so they're able to get The two of them out on the fire escape. They'll leave Sam alone in the apartment, right? And I thought Carl's not being subtle about this. Like, he's just screaming angrily, right?
Yeah.
Like, people can hear him.
Yeah.
But so now we're at the point, though, after he has possessed OMA, now he's having trouble manipulating things again.
Yes. Yeah, because he's trying to stop Carl from going after him. And he can't.
And he can't do it.
And he's trying to figure out what it is. But luckily, this doesn't last long.
Yes. So Carl chases them down, I guess, to the apartment down below them or below them, I think. And again, it's like, it's abandoned and it looks very similar to some of the stuff we saw early, at the beginning of the movie.
Yeah.
And, they're through there and they see, like up in these rafters above, right? There's a ladder that goes up these rafters above it. So they climb up there and he can't quite get to them. And so they're trying to escape on top of that. And so finally, though, like, we don't really see the whole sequence from Sam's point of view for a while, but he finally shows up again. At first, when you see Carl kind of getting beat up on this point, right? You don't really see that Sam doing it. But you get to the point where finally Sam shows back up. And now he's actually actively like kind of fighting Sam again. Sam's trying to fend him off and trying to protect himself with whatever he can protect himself with. Which is kind of futile because he's not able to hit a ghost.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I don't know why he thought he could hit a ghost.
Maybe he's coked out. I don't know. It is, 1990. And he's on Wall Street.
Yeah, maybe.
So, but how's it? So, does he get pushed?
No. So
how did you get?
No. So So Sam's finally able to physically manipulate things again. So in order to buy Molly and Oda Mae time to escape through the window to the fire escape, there's some scaffolding because there's painting going on.
There's a scaffolding still
in
there.
So
right.
he pushes the scaffold over. Sam pushes the scaffold over.
Oh, that's right. He pushes the scaffold
on top of Carl.
I saw this because it made me got to get back to Die Hard 2 again because it just makes me think of Die Hard 2.
Exactly. Me too. Yeah.
Where he crushes a dude with scaffolding.
Yes. Yeah.
But anyway, Carl's able to recover. He gets out from under the scaffolding, and there's, for whatever reason, that whatever they're doing in this apartment, there's a suspended like metal hook.
Yeah. So,
and he tries to swing it again, thinking somehow like it's gonna hit the ghost and knock the ghost out,
and it swings. Obviously, doesn't hit Sam, and then it swings back, and he's at like the window.
He's at the window. To get out the window.
Yeah, he's at the window, and the hook swings back, and it breaks the glass in the window. And I guess, was he trying to avoid the hook, and that's why he sort of fell out of the window?
Yeah, I think he was trying to avoid getting hit in the head with the hook.
Yeah, so he's kind of leaning up against the window, kind of half out of it, and this big shard of glass from the window falls and impales him.
Yeah, so the hook then, but instead of hitting him, hits the glass.
Mm-hmm.
It collapses this glass, and it's not, I guess, tempered proof, right? It's not shattering into millions of pieces. No, there's a giant freaking
shard of glass that falls right into Carl's chest. And then we see Carl climb out of his body. He just stands up out of his body. And he sees
Sam. And he's like, oh, hi.
Yeah.
And Santa just looks at him and smiles.
Yeah.
And obviously, you're thinking, oh, Carl's going to hell too.
And yeah,
and Carl looks at his body. And there's still a giant pane of glass.
Giant pane of glass sticking out of his torso. And then
you hear the noises again.
Yep, you hear the noises again.
The shadows come up.
And the shadows come up and grab Carl and drag him off.
He goes to hell.
And then you get Molly and Oda Mae.
Back in the apartment.
Back at the apartment. Are they back at the apartment, or is it... Or does he go and meet them where they are? Like...
He meets them and then they go back to the apartment. Okay. Yeah. Because they're hiding somewhere.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But... So then... Yeah, they're back to the apartment, and then the light comes back for, the light from earlier, from when Sam first died, comes back.
It's back now. And now, all of a sudden, Molly can see Sam.
Molly can see. Actually, first, Molly could hear him, because he said something, and both Oda Mae and Molly could hear him.
She hears him first. That's right.
And then, she hears him, then the light shows up. And then she can see him. When he's in the light, she can see him. And so, he realizes that's his cue. He's got to, go to heaven. His unfinished business was completed.
And Oda's kind of smiling about this. She's happy. And he then says, like, I love you.
Yeah.
I've always loved you.
Yeah, he's like, I love you. I've always loved you. And then he's like, it's amazing, Molly. The love inside, you take it with you. See ya.
Before he says that, she responds to the I've always loved you. She's like, ditto.
She says ditto.
And that's when he says, like, yeah, the light inside, it's amazing.
The love inside,
everything you love, you take it with you.
Take it with you. Yeah. And so then they kind of just stare at each other for a little while.
They couldn't get one last session in. Seemed like they might have been able to do that.
I don't know. I don't know. I mean, I guess there was no pottery wheel nearby. So, yeah, so he, goes off into the light.
Fades into the light.
And there's,
at that point, you just hope that Molly leads her life, the rest of her life in a way
that she doesn't get
go to hell.
Yeah. Or she doesn't get dragged away by the shadow people.
Yeah, that could still be a possibility. She decides to kill someone down the road, and she gets dragged away by the shadow people.
Yep. So hopefully that doesn't happen.
And as the movie's ending with the scene, you actually get another version of On-Chain Melody.
Mm-hmm.
But it's an instrumental version of it.
Yeah.
It's not the Righteous Brothers version, which is not the original version, by the way.
No, it's not. But it is the most well-known version.
Most well-known version, yes.
So,
but that's the end of Ghost.
That's the end of Ghost.
It's wild.
Yeah. Yes, it is. Much more wild than I remember.
I think it's hard because like Whoopi Goldberg's so great in this, and it's hard for me to do Whoopi stuff like justice because I'm not a black lady.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I mean, yeah, it's a fun movie. It's a wild movie. It's definitely, I would say, beyond just the computers in the Arsenio Hall. There's plenty of other things that claim it right around 1990. But I would say, like, if you haven't seen it, I would check it out. I think it's actually probably a movie at this point's become slightly underrated because
although
you could joke about some of the things in it and point out certain flaws. It's a fun watch, though.
It is a fun watch. It is a fun
And you
watch.
can see how this was a massive hit.
Yes. I mean, it was the most rented video in 1991.
Yeah. Like you can see how in 35, 34 years ago, why this movie was massively popular.
Mm-hmm.
Because it does have broad appeal.
Yes, it has
It's
appeal
not
to
just
the
an
broads.
action movie. It's not just a romance.
Yes.
It's not just kind of a little thriller.
It has a little bit of everything.
Yeah, yeah. And it's well acted.
Plus, I mean, it's got Swayze. You can't go wrong with
Swayze.
Swayze.
Exactly.
Yeah, so it was.
Yeah,
It was much better than I remembered it being. But then, this is the first time I'd actually sat down and watched it from beginning to end. So all the way through.
One of the things I do think is appropriate, since I was going to bring this up earlier. So how Ruben didn't really, he was thinking, oh yeah, Zucker, like I don't think that's kind of the tone I want for the movie.
Mm-hmm.
It did end up, so what we said, Whoopi won supporting actress at the Oscars. It was nominated for Best Picture.
Yes, it was. It's one of the few supernatural themed movies that has been nominated for Best Picture.
Yes. The Sixth Sense, which I think we might do one day, is another one that was nominated for.
That's
Best
another one that
Picture.
has to do with ghosts.
Yes. And but at the Golden Globes that year, right? Because Golden Globes split themselves into drama and then musical comedy. This was nominated for Best Musical Comedy, not for Best Drama.
This was musical comedy? Okay.
By the way, this did win Best Screenplay at the Oscars as well for Ruben.
Okay.
But yeah, this was a musical comedy, which I thought was interesting. Was when I was looking at that after, right before I started watching the movie earlier this week, and let me, yeah, it's Demi Moore was nominated for Best Actress in the musical comedy. Patrick Swayze was nominated for Best Actor. That Golden Globes, they only do one supporting category, so they kind of combine it for that, right? And Whoopi did win that as well as the Oscar. But for 1990, that was your Dances with Wolves one. That was Best Drama.
Yep.
Right, and you also would have had Goodfellas that year. Would have had Godfather Part 3 in drama. Yeah. So, I'm sorry. It did not win Best Musical or Comedy. It was nominated for that category. But the movie Green Card won.
Green Card.
Listen to this list. So, Green Card won. Ghost was nominated. Dick Tracy was nominated for that.
Huh. Interesting.
Pretty Woman. And Home Alone.
Okay.
Home Alone was definitely a comedy.
Yeah. So
anyway,
I wouldn't put Ghost in the comedy category.
I would not. I would put it in the drama.
Yeah.
Yes. You could have taken out Godfather Part 3 easily.
Yeah.
Not that I would say this was a top 5 movie in 1990, but it was better than Godfather Part 3.
Yeah. Godfather Part 3 was not that great. Especially compared to the other two Godfathers.
That's right. So, anyway, that's Ghost.
That is Ghost. Anything else you want to say about it?
That's it.
I think we covered it pretty well.
We did.
So, anyway, if you enjoy what you're hearing and you want to experience more of what we have to offer, go ahead and check us out on our social media. We are on Facebook and Instagram and Threads. This is Rob and Tony's Cinematic Adventure. The and is spelled out A&D. It's not an ampersand like it is the name of the podcast. We are also on X or Twitter. That is R&T Cinematic. And if you want to check out some of our film reviews for some movies we've done on the podcast and we haven't done, some we will do, some we won't do, check out our Letterboxd. That is Cine Adventure or Cine Adventure, CINE Adventure. And you can also send us an email at robandtonycinematicadventure@gmail.com. Once again, the and is spelled out, A-N-D. It's not an ampersand like the name of the podcast. Yeah, just send us an email. What did you think of Ghost? Let us know. Do you love it? Do you hate it? Is it your favorite Patrick Swayze movie? Is it your favorite Demi Moore movie? Is it your favorite Tony Goldwyn movie? Or do you prefer The Sixth Day?
I do like The Sixth Day.
The Sixth Day is a fun movie.
That is an underrated Schwarzenegger movie.
Yes, it is. Very underrated. But anyway, what did you think? Do you think we should do more movies like this? Do you think we should do less movies like this? Let us know what you think. We want to hear from you. We want to be able to talk about movies that you want to hear us talk about. Because we don't do this podcast just for us. We do it for you too. We want to be able to...
We're not talking about the Irish band.
No, we're not talking about the Irish band. Not that you two. Although if you two wanted to listen, you two can listen. But no, we want to appeal to as many ears as we can on this podcast, and so yeah, interact with us. Let us know what you think. Go to our social media, give us a like and a follow if you enjoy what you're hearing. Go to your favorite social media or your favorite podcast app, wherever you're listening to us. Hit that subscribe button. Give us a good rating, a good review. That's how we move up in the standings, in the rankings, in the search, in the recommendations, all that stuff. And yeah, that's how we can reach more people. So do that, and we would much appreciate it. And so next week, we are going to be once again continuing with our summer blockbusters, but we're starting a little mini series inside of this main series, this larger series that we're doing of summer blockbusters.
I'm excited for this.
Me too. And so the next couple of movies, we are going to visit some would say one of the greatest actors of all time. Some might say one of the worst actors of all time. Definitely one of the most versatile actors of all time. But we are going to be doing a couple of Nicolas Cage classics from the 90s.
Summer of Cage.
Some of his summer blockbusters. And the first of those that we're going to be doing is
Which we did last year, but now we're going to commit to it.
We did The Rock last year for our summer blockbusters. But this time we're actually going into a little Cage mini series inside of this summer blockbuster series. So yeah, we're going to start out next week with Con Air. The one where Nicolas Cage has the most luxurious locks of any of his characters. His hair is just fantastic in this movie.
Which would be a great contrast to the baldness of John Malkovich.
Yes. Who is also in Con Air.
Who MC Gainey is also in Con Air.
Yes, he is.
Who we enjoyed talking about recently in Breakdown.
Yes.
So I'm excited for this.
And before that, in Mighty Ducks. So, yes, we got another MC Gainey movie coming up.
But we'll talk all about that next week.
Yes. So, until then, hope you enjoy whatever movies you're watching. And make sure to check out Con Air if you haven't already. Or if you have, watch it again. It's well worth rewatching. And we will see you next time for Con Air.